Good morning and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting in the town of Qualicum Beach. I want to acknowledge that we're having this meeting at on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Qualicum First Nation. First item is the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Then the agenda is adopted by consent. And our first delegation is from the Qualicum Beach Historical and Museum Society. Who would like to start with that? Come on now, Mr. Christensen. And Chris, if you would push the button at the base of the microphone. Yeah.
Okay. And to advance, oh, there's one. Okay, that's good. Well, Council, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for receiving the Qualicum Museum delegation this morning. Lorraine Bell, our museum director, will be presenting a more in-depth presentation this morning, and the slides are upcoming. As all part of the annual reporting, we do to the council, and as part of the fee-for-service agreement we have for the council. We have already submitted to Heather Swenson documents such as the year-end financial, the budget, upcoming budget, our work plans, and also our achievements as a museum last year, 2025. Our museum's success is built on relationships and on building relationships both locally, regionally, and nationally. And we're starting out with a good, strong, knowledgeable and skilled staffing group. And even our board, over the last decade that I've been involved, have transitioned from a working board to a governance board. And that's got its pluses and it's got minuses too, but nevertheless, we carry on. And so I would certainly like to thank, we have 2 full-time staff members, and I'd also like to thank Jean Young, who's one of your council members who sits on our board. And we really appreciate maintaining that link with the council. So without too much more comments, I'd like to turn the podium over to Lorraine so she can carry on with the slides. But what I often like to say is that our Qualicum Beach Museum, we may not have the Mona Lisa at the museum, but we do have Rosie the Walrus, which is, as you might know, is a 60,000-year-old Ice Age walrus that was found on the beaches just below Dashwood back in 1979. And part of our national link, she lives in 2 places. She lives at the Qualicum Beach Museum, but she also lives at the National Museum of Nature in Ottawa. So, thank you. And I'll turn the podium over to Lorraine.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for having us here today. My name is Lorraine Bell, and I'm the director of the Qualicum Beach Museum. And I'd like to present a review of our last fiscal, which was September 24 to August 2025, and as well talk about our current work plan and show our financials and budget. As you know, we're a nonprofit society, the Qualicum Beach Historical and Museum Society, and our purpose is to preserve and share the stories of Qualicum Beach with locals and visitors. We have a volunteer board that Chris was talking about, and they provide oversight and strategic direction to the museum. And like Chris was mentioning, we're still at 2 permanent full-time admin and management staff, myself and Cassell Reed, 2 summer staff, and about 50 and weekly volunteers, with even more than that coming out for work bees and special events. And so overall volunteer efforts add up to about 1,400 hours per year at the museum. So here's a quick snapshot of what we have in our collections. We're in the middle of a comprehensive inventory as well as a digitization program. And there's just some samples there, but multiply that by thousands, and that's what we have in our collection. Okay, here's some more. So this is a bit more about research and collections. Members of the public often bring specific questions to us that require us to do more in-depth research in our collections. And the topics shown on this slide are just some of the many questions that people have for us about the history and nature of Qualicum Beach. And so we're very grateful to have the opportunity to share these incredible historical and scientific resources with our community. My favorite is that vacuum cleaner. You have to like crank it while you're doing your vacuuming. So you can come and see it at the museum. Okay, here's some statistics. Last year we had a total of 3,747 visitors, and so that was up from the year before, which was at 3,300, and about 9,400 in donations at the door, also up from last year. And apart from keeping statistics, we also have a guest book for visitor feedback, where we get a lot of positive comments, like these ones. And we get all ages of people writing in the guest book, and I find that older people, it's kind of a nostalgia thing, and younger people just kind of absorb the experience, but it's great to know that it appeals to such a wide demographic of visitors. And we love to hear from them. So we hear from time to time that people are having trouble finding us, and so we're really trying to address that. So we're utilizing all of the traditional as well as social media strategies we can think of, and like this Steal the Look campaign that was quite eye-catching. And so drop us a follow on Insta, and you can check it out yourself. And as well, we have off-site presentations, and that we've been kind of expanding those in the last few years as well. And the latest one was there's Cassell and Katie at Beach Day, which is always a lot of fun, but we've also been experimenting with the Thursday night markets, and that's been quite a nice way to reach out to the community and visitors. And here's just a selection of some posters for public events, just to give you a sense of the diversity of activities and events that we have on offer at the museum. QB reads, we have lectures, special days, learning Saturdays, exhibit openings, and much more. And there's some pictures of people having fun at the museum. Okay, exhibits. So I've discussed before that we create permanent and temporary exhibits at the museum, and we also host traveling exhibitions regularly, depending on what's available and what we have funding to put on. And last year, so that's almost a year and a half ago now, it was the Fighting in Flanders exhibit from the Canadian War Museum, which is really interesting. And we also have been partnering with local community groups. So in the past, we've partnered, for example, with the skateboard group, and we put a summer exhibit about skateboarding in Qualicum Beach. And last year, it was the Qualicum Beach Friends of the Forest, and we put on a celebration of the trees of Qualicum Beach, and that had exhibits, learning programs, and a photography contest. Oh, is that our light? Okay.
You're an invited guest, so you can speak longer.
Okay, I'll try to wrap it up. Okay, here's buildings and grounds. So I won't list all those many things we've been doing, but that's just some of the work that we've been doing to keep the grounds shipshape, and we do get a lot of help from our volunteers at our semi-annual work bees to do that kind of work. And here's a list of all the businesses and organizations and agencies that we work with over a given year. And I think we're an important part of the local economic and tourism infrastructure. I read a statistic recently that heritage tourists, especially people who enjoy museums and galleries, the museum in Tosh and stuff, they tend to stay longer and spend more money. So that's an interesting study that I can share with you as well. So we try to promote the town and local business as much as possible. Okay, here's our current work plan. It's current. Our fiscal starts in September, but this is more or less what we're getting up to this year. And there's more details about this in our submitted work plan. And we're pretty excited about upcoming exhibitions, such as the Hueyate Archaeology exhibition that will be opening in June. And that's about archaeology on Lasqueti Island, Coast Salish clam gardens. And we're also always trying new things with our programming and enjoying that very much. And right now it is Fish February, just so you know. Okay, amongst our goals this year for buildings and grounds is to rake aside some of the coarse gravel and replace it with crusher dust to make it accessible to wheelchairs. We also are planning to add some UV protection to some of the windows and have our climate control serviced, and also maybe add some extra storage on the site. We hope to make improvements to the Heritage House. So that is the Heritage House, and I mentioned we made improvements to the Heritage Hut. So the Heritage Hut and the Heritage House are two different structures, and you can see them both on that picture there. Maybe we should come up with a new name for the Heritage Hut. Okay, so it's going to be a busy year. So here's some financials. We get our yearly financials done by Sabo and Jang Accountancy. And you'll notice the deficiency of revenues over expenses, most of which are explained by the amortization of capital assets. Okay. And here's a list of our grants and revenues. You can see we're dependent on the town fee-for-service, as well as provincial and federal grants that we receive for the bulk of our operating expenses. I think it's also encouraging to see our own revenues have increased since last year quite a bit. So 23,897 from 15,289. And so we're continuing also to work on that. Okay, this is our budget from last year costs. I don't know if anyone can see those numbers, but it's in our report as well. And
Yes, we received a package.
yeah, so I'll just blast through these. I mean, my only point for that is we're spending a little bit less on special events and programs this year than we did last year. And we're just trying to watch our budget and match it to our revenue expectations. All right, so I already mentioned submitted documents that we have submitted to the town. We're sort of in the middle of our 5-year strategic plan, so we'll probably be doing another review of that this year and making sure we're keeping up with that. And as Chris mentioned, our sincere thanks to our mayor and council for coming to our events, and to Jean for being our town rep, and also for the kind assistance from Heather and the town staff, from handling the fee-for-service application, dropping off barricades at Children's Day, and a lot more. So we're so appreciative of that. And finally, thank you to the residents of Qualicum Beach for supporting our museum, and we hope to see you all there soon. That's it. Thank you.
I appreciate your presentation. And that picture, I'm sure Councillor Skipsey remembers that building for many, many years when your dad was the mayor. That was the old town hall. And that's where now Better You is, and Councillor Young's store. So Councillor Young, you're the liaison. Any questions or comments?
I think the museum board does a wonderful job, and it's all volunteer services, which is awesome. And thank you, Lorraine, for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Any other comments or questions? Well done, good presentation, and thank you for coming out this morning, and keep up the good work. Thank you. So next on the agenda, and the gallery, anybody from the public would like to make a comment on the presentation you just saw? Okay, then we'll proceed with the next item, which is planning and community development. Mr. Sales.
Thank you, Mayor Westbrook. This morning we have on the agenda a development variance permit and development permit application for 3022 Island Highway West. This is an application that council has considered in the past, and the plans that are being put forward today are an updated version. So today, the purpose of today's meeting is primarily to provide an opportunity for council to receive the applicant's updated submission, to ask questions of the applicant and staff, and to discuss the matter in a committee of the whole format. The town often uses committee of the whole meetings for public input, but they are also very useful as a way for the town to have a more fulsome discussion of specific topics. So in this case, the development in full transparency with the public in attendance. So at this stage in the process, it's important for the committee of the whole to clarify outstanding matters, consider providing some feedback to the applicant before they proceed to this next stage in a formal review process. Should the application proceed through the development variance permit process, there would be an opportunity for the public to provide comment. So today's not that day. We do want to make sure that we adhere to the statutory processes. So this is primarily a day for council, and the public is here to observe, and the applicant is here to provide their updated plans. So with that, if there are any questions, I will be taking them later. Thank you.
Thank you. Who from the development side would like to make a presentation? Come on up. And just state your name for the record.
All right, my name is Jameen Longsay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good morning, Mayor Council and councillors and members of the planning department and members of the public. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to present our proposal of the Skiddy View Place located on 3022 Island Highway West. Again, my name is Jameen Longsay. I am the design manager for KP Architecture. I'm also the owner's representative. And so I just wanted to introduce my team of consultants that will be presenting as well. Behind me here is Larry Pardora. He is our architect representing KP Architecture. We have James Carson, who is the geotechnical engineer representing GeoPacific Consultants. We have Michelle Jones representing Timberlake Jones Engineering as a civil engineer. And then we have Chris Midgley representing Kinship Design as a landscape architect. And so our goal today is to essentially explain our current design and how it responds to the latest updated 2015 OCP and with the community feedback that we received in our previous submission. So today we aim to show that our new proposal meets the Waterfront Master Plan's vision and while preserving the character of Qualicum Beach. So there you go. So I just wanted to start out really quickly, just a quick history of I guess the development of the property. So you can see up top there, that was an old development called the Crystals between 2005 and 2012. That was an applicant made from the previous owner and developer. If you fast forward to 2020, you can see our previous submission was a large five-story condominium with 88 units, in which council did not approve. And so we've taken the feedback from the community and we've come back with a updated design. One of the larger fundamental differences with the old design, the new design is we've taken a 5-story, 26-meter high building, and we have significantly lowered the massing of it, and now we're proposing for a 3-story, 11.44 meter height variance. And we've also, I just want to note that we also removed the setback variances that we proposed for before. So in this case, outside of the height variance, we fall along all the current zoning requirements that the city has requested in that C8 zone. And so In this case, we remain as the C8 zone. We're fully compliant in use, floor space ratio, lot coverage, and we've setbacks as well, and we've also provided an excess of required parking, predominantly in the underground of the parking levels. So I'd like to call up Larry Podhora if he wants to touch base on the form and character of the buildings here.
Thank you, Jermaine. Good morning, Mayor, Council. Thanks for having us. So this has been a challenging process for us and for you as well. But I think this latest iteration demonstrates that what is likely to result from the new massing and new color palette is something much more modest and providing a really interesting and engaging and connecting way for people who use Island Highway and the beachgoers to connect with the forest as a background without interfering with either the views or the functionality of the residents who live up on top of the hill. We have some sections that we can show you later on which demonstrate the view corridors and how we avoid any kind of impact from the top of the hill. So essentially, we believe that this project provides necessary or desirable housing for Qualicum, and provides it in a way that creates an architectural foil, and it provides it in such a way that it's not monolithic, that is actually quite variegated, providing architectural interest as people move past the building. And the color palette also is not ostentatious, it's quite subtle, and provides a lot of interest in the way that it breaks up long surfaces or tall surfaces. It's essentially organized around 3 buildings, and each building has got a separate geometry with gaps in the middle, which allow views through, and which again break up the overall massing so that it's much more manageable and pleasant to walk past. The project is 3 stories of residential housing, which is sitting. Oh, are you clicking? Should I be clicking this? I could. Okay. 3 stories of residential sitting on a podium which houses the parkade, which is exposed along the sidewalk, but the entire building is inserted into the hillside quite significantly, and that reduces the net massing along the west side. So as you can see, the individual identities of the buildings, the materials are, again, quite engaging. We've got cultured stone cladding most of the podium that is exposed. And incidentally, the podium is not just the parkade shielded from view. It also addresses the surge and high water issues that waterfront developments like this need to address. So cultured stone, and then for durability and longevity and low maintenance, most of the solid surfacing would be cementitious panels, done in essentially 3 ways: 2 tones of color plus wood grain and the stone, and the colors recall the OCP guidelines for the site, suggesting a natural color and material integration. So the The traffic is calm, mitigated. We've got the roofs acting in a way that appears to have them stepping up and down. In actual fact, they're pushing forward and backward, but the same effect results. So the line of the roof is not a continuous straight line. Again, it's got this architectural interest of breaking that up and providing interesting corners and recesses. We have addressed, so essentially it is all residential in order that we don't attract parking and sort of a commercial beehive of activity along a place that should be directed to the views, the ocean, and the local users. Basically a calm residential edge, not contributing to the traffic of the highway. I think that's the first part, the materials and massing. We can cover the questions later on. There'll be an opportunity to do that. But for now, I'd like to call upon Chris to discuss how, if in any way, the landscaping has changed. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, council, staff. So while the architects have been quite diligent at accommodating the requests to meet the needs of the town for this, the landscape has remained relatively consistent, focusing on a pedestrian-oriented, very green streetscape along across from the waterfront park and along a scenic transportation route. The key elements of the landscape are the streetscape, the transition between the streetscape and the built form, and then the restoration and retention of forest behind the building. So on the streetscape, what you can sort of start to see in this diagram, as in the other images that were shown, are a very strong sort of pedestrian orientation. There's a bike lane to and a set of street trees and a boulevard strip using native species, complementary ornamental, drought-resistant kind of species to create a resilient but also park-like character along that street edge across from the actual park. Transitioning up into the residential component, there's open terraces and entry plazas to moderate that transition so it's not so abrupt, and landscape terrace walls along the edge of the building to further moderate that change in scale and to really create a green and lush environment. In the section at the top corner, you can sort of see that general character of layering of architecture to terrace walls to a pedestrian walkway, street trees and a boulevard, a line of parking, bike lane across the road down to the beach. Behind the building, there's obviously going to be impacts to the forested ecosystem there, so we're proposing a restoration-style planting immediately behind the building, focusing primarily on slope stability as the goal for that revegetation, and then managing the retained forest as well over time. As I mentioned, so on the building itself, you can see on the either side, there's flanked by sort of garden patios. It's a loose program at this point, but offers the opportunity for gardening activities for the residents or what have you else. And then, as Larry indicated, these penetrations in the building creating open terraces to present views out to the ocean, little gathering places for residents at that just above street level to have eyes on the street, to enjoy the sunset, to enjoy the town that they're living in. So just to reiterate, fairly consistent in terms of the landscape over the course of this project, our involvement in it, and really trying to accentuate a safe, walkable, pedestrian-oriented section of the highway for people to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Morning.
You can pull the microphone out.
Oh, okay. I'm James Carson with GeoPacific. We're geotechnical engineers. I think what I'll do is just add some color to the slope stability thought process that's been brought up in previous applications. So people wonder, in order to accommodate this rear wall, that you need to cut into the slope. And the question is, how does that affect the stability of the slope? That's a good question. So what we've done is a slope stability assessment and modeled 3 different geometries. The first being the existing slope geometry as it sits today. The second being the slope with a cut. The third being a slope with a cut reinforced with, we call it a stress relief wall, but it's permanent tie-back anchors. It's a system that's common in highway cuts and developments of this type on sloping sites. So these assessments were done in accordance with the EGBC guidelines for slope stability assessments. The previous application has been reviewed by a third party commissioned by the town. So the previous application, the total cut depth of this is the same as last time, although the building's shorter. And what our assessment indicates is that with the stress relief wall in place, the slope stability, the factor of safety against slope instability is actually a net increase in both the static and the seismic condition. Is there anything else I should add, Jimmy? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Michelle Jones with Timberlake Jones Engineering. From our perspective, the civil engineering on this project has not changed significantly. The coverage is the same, so our servicing for water, storm, and sanitary are pretty much the same as they were the last time. We were detaining water for a 2-year storm before it goes out to the beach. I don't know if you can see it on that plan, but we're utilizing 3 existing crossings of the highway so that we don't have to dig up the highway and cross again. And we're splitting the stormwater between those 3 crossings. So realistically, we're not changing anything, but so it's pretty much the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And so I think I'll touch base on the traffic. I think it's an important topic here that's come across in the past year. And so the design of the underground parking hasn't changed much. Mind you, we have reduced the parking based on the current unit count. And so the footprint of the parkade hasn't changed much. And as you can see in the central entryway, we've designed the access to have a one-way in with an internal circulation to the left and the right on each parkade of the building on the east to west side. And so this basically reduces the amount of circulation and turning movements for vehicles when they're coming in one spot and they're going one way and they're essentially exiting out of the furthest extremities of the site. So this will, the turning movements, they minimize conflicts and essentially funnel out in the best case scenario where you have the vehicles that are exiting at both ends of the site. And so the majority of the parking is underground, so it reduces a lot of the visual clutter and the circulation on the surface. We do have 3 surface stalls along that entry ramp there, and maybe I'll go back to the site plan. But as you can see, if you can see in the site plan, we also have 18. What we call 18 visitor stalls that are outside of our property line that we're actually not counting in our parking count. So this is parking that's going to be outside of our site, and just the total that we have from the underground plus 3 stalls does not include this extra amount of parking on the street there. And so, Larry, did you want to come up to quickly?
Yeah, just really briefly.
Yeah, talk about the height variance.
Right, so our height variance request has obviously been hugely reduced since the last iteration. We are asking for a height of 11.44 meters, which compares to the outright zoning requirement of 7.5. The reason is nothing extraordinary. It's simply trying to accommodate 3 stories of residential development on top of this podium, which is, again, needed for flood protection and surge protection. So when you add up the floor to ceilings, it just yields something that is in excess of the 7.5 meters in the zoning. It is a fairly high-profile, elegant, and potentially expensive development, which allows the developer to use upscale materials, great finishes inside. So even if it was decided that we should somehow compress the residential stories, we would still not be able to be within the envelope of the zoning. But it's in this case completely shielded by the forest, and we feel that the benefits that this development brings as a foil to the forest is outweighs the few meters that we're asking for here in height. The building, something I didn't mention before, has been very responsive to SEPTED design requirements, making sure that the development is safe, that there are no blind corners and nooks that may make the use of it uncomfortable for people. There's a great deal of overview because a lot of the balconies, if not all of them, are glazed with the guards being completely open. So any coming and going is in front of everyone to monitor and to raise alarm if such should be needed. Generous glazing to the courtyard, eyes on the street, highway in this case, and the stepping of the facades away from the public realm yields an interesting architectural variation while providing a very safe base area.
Thank you, Larry. So I just want to touch base on the housing and the diversity and why this location. So the 2025 OCP, it's clear that Qualicum Beach needs more housing choices, and especially for aging in place and downsizing residents or smaller households. So what we're proposing here is a 66-unit residential. These homes provide a mix of unit types. So our mix of unit types are 2 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms plus den, 3 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms plus den. So it gives a variety of unit types that can support seniors, couples, and growing families. And so by placing the housing along the Island Highway West, we're putting density where it belongs. And so it's on a major corridor within walking distance of the beach. And so beach and services. So we're also preserving the character of the hillside neighborhood and behind, and the rural edges beyond the neighborhood village. And so, Larry, did you want to finish off with a quick conclusion there?
Sure, really quickly, because I'm not sure how we're doing on time. I'm sure we're up against it. But just to summarize, again, we are fully compliant with conditions of the C8 zone, with the exception of the height, as I mentioned earlier. We believe we're supporting the 2025 OCP very well with our density and massing and material selection. And the need for housing and various types of housing in the community is well documented. I think this development fits very well with that objective as well. We think the development strikes the right balance between the need for housing and also maintaining free and unimpeded visual access to the beaches as one drives past, while providing this kind of architectural backdrop to the forest and a whole bunch of amenity for the residents and for the people who are passing by. So I hope that you support our development, and ask you to please comment and ask questions, either for us to answer here or subsequently. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your presentation and bringing the entire team. It's a very, very robust plan that you brought to us, and we appreciate that. Any questions or comments from Council? Councillor Young.
I'm just curious, has there been a traffic study for pedestrians? I just feel that with 56 units, it's concentrated. Living on the beach, you'll have weekend parties or families and friends visiting because they want to be checking out the beach with you. So I'm just thinking, like, people want to do the seawall walk in the evenings, and so how is the traffic control there? Like, it's going to be a lot of safety issues with people wanting to cross to the beach, right? So how are you addressing that?
Thank you, Councillor Young. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Regarding the traffic study, a traffic study has not been done. That's usually something that we do at a later stage of the permitting. And so the intent is to do a full traffic study for the development to ensure that we have safe passage. Now, on the site plan, where you can see now, you can see that we've shown 3 separate crosswalks. Now, we originally showed this for context, just for, you know, for a visual to be able to see where these major points can happen. As we were driving in, of course, you know, down the street there are multiple crosswalks along Island Highway. So I imagine that I actually think that 3 crosswalks within that vicinity is actually too much, and ideally we would have 2 at each end. But I guess going back to your comment before was that the full intent is to provide a traffic study to ensure that we have an engineer professional provide us with their input in order to provide the necessary requirements for safe crossing and pedestrian safety.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Van der Valk.
Thank you. I do have a question related to Councillor Young's question, and it may well be more for staff, because the town is planning to do the Complete Streets project partially on that stretch of the highway. So I'm wondering how this and the Complete Streets project or proposal might fit together.
I'll refer that question to Mr. Sales. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Van der Valk. The town is proposing to undertake a comprehensive reconstruction of the roadway, including some pedestrian accommodations. Essentially what's being proposed on the plan before you is there's a walking accommodation, and then there's these little landscape nodes that extend out into the street a bit. We, at the time that the preliminary plan for the Complete Streets project was developed, we were aware that this was, you know, still in the background and would likely proceed at some point. So the plan kind of accommodated this development. So it does match, and the intent is fairly consistent. You know, you have your lay-by parallel parking in front of it, little landscape nodes to help with the traffic calming, and the rest of the plan that council saw before for the grant application process, that is essentially what we will be proceeding with. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I do have another, couple of questions. This is the first time we've seen this information, so we'll try to ask as many questions as we can. I usually like a little bit more time beforehand. But there were some comments made about the height primarily, and I'm wondering, the existing buildings that we have along the waterfront, how do they compare in height? And I suppose that's another question for our staff.
Mr. Sales.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. I think the closest parallel is there is an existing building very close to this one that has parking on the ground with 3 floors of residential above it. So in terms of feeling intuitively what that height would look like, I think you could look at that building. Thank you.
And the other thing that I liked about that motel, is they put a berm in front of the, between the street and the parking, so it kind of hides the underground parking, as you can see right in there. So that was a nice feature. But yeah, I would look at that building, it would be the same height as the building next door, as far as the number of units and floors is concerned. Not number of units, but number of floors.
Okay, thank you. I had a question about the underground parking and how far underground, and I guess is there concerns giving potential sea level rise and whatnot, how that would work? Just, it says the majority is underground, so yeah, thank you.
So what we have is we have a partial underground. I know we call it underground, but it's essentially half in, half out. And so just for context, if you look at the grade level of the site as a whole, that second level there, that's currently set at, I believe it's 6.32 meters. And so if you, relative to sea level at 0, we are still over that 5-meter waterfront management plan level. And so in this case, because we have a raised podium, we're actually even going even higher. So that's where you see here where you've got a partial underground. It's generally half in and then half out. So what you see in that second line there, that's what's going to be exposed for what we're calling a podium. And so if you see that front corner there, the main floor level is at an elevated height. And so that's in addition to, I guess, the 6-meter difference from sea level from the front of the site.
I just had a couple other quick comments. I guess in the project information, it says the maximum height permitted is 11 meters, but then we heard 7.5. So I just wonder if staff could clarify for us what that height variance would be.
Mr. Seals.
Thank you, Mayor Westbrook. The existing zoning does have the lower height as an outright permitted use, so the variance would be to whatever they're proposing. I believe it was a bit under 12. 11 is a reference that we will be referring to frequently because that's the maximum height for the residential zones throughout the town now. So at some point in the future, we will be undertaking a housekeeping amendment to make it so zones like this don't have to comply with a lower height standard than the residential areas in the town. Thank you.
So the provincial legislation would say the height would be 11 meters, not 7.5. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just had a couple. One was a comment. I know when this proposal came before council previously and the APC, there was concerns about the corridors and because this is a north-facing building, how you deal with light and getting light into those areas, especially if it's backed up against the bank. But the other thing was just about accessibility, because I see a number of stairs, but I'm assuming that the building would be fully accessible. Is that correct?
I can briefly address that. Thank you for the question. Because of because of the way we're cutting into the hill, obviously opportunities for daylighting into the back corridors are very limited. There's a possibility of doing some of that on the top floor, but the floors below are basically into the soil. So we would obviously take every opportunity to dress those spaces up, but they are circulation spaces, much like corridors in apartment buildings are internal. This would be something similar. And we would have an architectural wall on both sides, fully interior finished, and as I say, as much daylighting as we can possibly bring would be brought in. But yeah, it is built in like that.
And I'll just quickly touch base on accessibility of it. This building will definitely be a handicap.
Would you speak a little closer to the microphone? You can, and tilt it up if you like.
Thanks. Yeah, so this building, its full intent to be accessible. There is an accessibility and adaptability requirement for the building code. And so we have internal elevators. We'll have any necessary ramps that you need to get up and down for access. And so that's usually something that we deal with at the building permit portion of the development. Thank you.
I'm similar to Councillor Skipsey's question on the natural sunlight. Would it then be less desirable to be in the middle of that building situated on the first or second floor, that their only natural lighting would come from the front where they have the patio? There is no other natural light when you're in the middle of the building on the first and second floor?
Well, I can address that. The short answer is, sorry. The short answer is yes. Even with light wells scattered about, they bring in such a constricted area of daylighting into the length of the corridor that it doesn't make a significant difference. Again, we have greater freedom on the top floor to make something more significant along that length, and we will look at those opportunities as the design evolves. We're fully aware that it is a desirable end for us, so we'll be vigilant about that.
I just wanted to add, if you were speaking on the units themselves, the floor plan layout, the way that it's staggered, and if you can see at the level 3 upper floors, they're actually set back. So the depth of the units themselves at the top, larger suites, definitely will have a lot of daylight coming in. We have large glazing, we have large patio openings and balconies. So similar to a standard apartment style or condo development, we usually have the bedrooms and the living areas up at front, and then at the back you'll have the washrooms, obviously with no windows and things like that that are fronting the corridor. So
Is the first and second floor, how much lighting would they get of natural lighting?
yeah. They should get I believe they get quite a bit of natural lighting. You can see there on the second and third. You'll still have the same style of openings up front. We have large openings. In this case, we don't have, we're not limited to setback requirements. So when it comes to unprotected openings, we can actually have quite large openings along those faces. So every unit will have quite a large area of glazing and windows to allow for natural light.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Van der Wal.
Thank you. I believe it was Mr. Pahora that said essentially this building would essentially be all residential. Is it all residential? Okay. And on the previous plan, and I'm sorry again.
Just so everybody knows, because it's also being taped, the answer was yes.
Yes.
Thank you. In the previous iteration, you did have lockout suites, and I'm assuming that there are no lockout suites in this.
Yes, in this case, we are not proposing any lockout suites.
Okay, thank you. And let's see. There was mention from the landscape architect about a common garden space, and I'm just wondering where that is on your plan.
Looking at the plan that's up on the screen here, these would be two spaces flanking the east and west, for lack of the left and right of the buildings. So you can see a little patio space with some little drawn boxes on the one side. That, as I mentioned, that's a fairly loose program, but it's open and available for that to be sort of garden boxes or other sort of a planted area for casual gatherings, that sort of thing. But that would be flanking either side.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
Can you go back to your presentation on neighboring views and just clarify for us, if you're on West Crescent, how is their view affected by your new build?
Yes. Yes, so if we're looking at number one there, that is essentially what I would call the worst-case scenario at Building 3. When we were modeling out the slope and the hillside, it's obviously not on one plane, so you have some of the buildings kind of pushed forward, you have them pulled back. And so if I'm starting at number one, I would call that the worst-case scenario. So if you can see that bottom line there where you have the bottom portion of the vision, it touches the edge of the hillside, and it essentially lines right up where at the corner of that building. Now, what these views aren't showing are, in the wintertime it'll be a little more visible, but in the summertime you'll have the trees full. From our calculations, and you can even see actually in the image below, if you can see right up top on the left side there, you can see these light white boxes, just past the trees on the tip there. What we've done in our model is we've actually taken each building along, adjacent to our site, and we've masked it into our model. So that's what you should be able to see, from the point of view, mind you, if you're standing right by the building, you won't be able to see them anyways. So the opposite of that is if you're up top. Number one is the worst case scenario where you would potentially be able to see the tip of the roof if you can see the highway. For the other locations, as you go along the hillside, you can see that those viewpoints completely miss the edge of the roof tips. And so, as a worst case scenario, I believe, especially that townhouse complex there on West Crescent West there, you may be able to see the roof tip, in light vegetation seasons, but in general, from our analysis, it does not affect the viewscape and the view impact of all the developments that are behind there.
I just want to add to that, the point of these is to demonstrate that even in the worst-case scenario, the view of the water for the residents up the hill is not impeded. So, while they may see the leading edge of our development, provided there are no trees, because the trees are missing off the section as well. So with the trees in place and the development in, you still only ever cut off a sliver of the highway view, whereas the water view and the beach are unimpeded.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Skipsey.
Thank you. I just had a question about the landscaping. There was mention that there would be some slope stabilization done above the development. And currently there are mostly alders on that property reaching sort of the end of their lifespan. Alders typically last about 50 years. And so I've noticed a number of them coming down the slope already. So I just wondered what the approach would be above the building to stabilize the slope. Thank you.
So what we observed on the site was that it was predominantly big leaf maple on the upslope side. And so some of them may reach their end of life too, but there would be sort of what we have proposed is that there would be a comprehensive management plan for that whole upslope of vegetation. So one good thing about big leaf maples, for example, and any maples, you can cut them down, they coppice, they keep growing, they keep a very, what you want is a light tree with big roots. And so you can actually achieve that with maples by managing them effectively. Again, we're not going to do anything without consultation across the team who have greater expertise in geotechnical stability and that sort of thing. So what I'm saying now is our preliminary proposal for vegetation management for the area that gets retained, and then planting of sort of smaller trees that can be well managed in the area that would be disturbed on the immediate upslope edge. But again, in consultation with the team, geotechnical engineers and so forth, we would be working collaboratively to provide a logical approach to tree planting and native vegetation on the upslope side to primarily focus on slope stability. There's a wide range of solutions, but small trees, big roots is kind of the goal.
This is a question for James from the Geotech Department. With this build, would the slope stabilization be better than if this development didn't come along?
That's correct, yeah. And maybe I didn't explain it previously. So the stress relief wall, what that is that is an independent system from the structure of the building. So really what we're trying to demonstrate in our analysis is that if you came and cut that slope and put the permanent relief wall in, that slope is more stable than it is today in a static and a seismic situation. So it's separate from the building.
Thank you. I've seen that when the building was put up next door, where they had to go way below the street level, and I saw those anchors being put in to make sure that that didn't collapse on top of the building.
That's a temporary shoring wall, and then when that parquet comes up, then the building takes the earth pressure.
Okay.
Similar, though. It looks similar.
Councillor Vanderwalk.
Thank you. I'm just curious as to what the ceiling heights would be in the suites.
Ceiling heights, they basically, right now, we've allowed for, I believe, 9-foot ceiling, clear ceilings. That can be, our goal is 9-foot ceilings. We usually don't go any lower for an industry standard. The only thing, even right now, I mean, I know we're proposing for that 11.44 ceiling height, but you know, if this development proceeds and we get structural input in the building permit phase, we've actually allowed for larger floor joists. So in this case, we're proposing for what I would call a more worst case scenario. So there is a chance that if we do, for example, use lower depth floor joists, that could actually lower the building slightly. We're talking 2 inches per floor, but yes, 9-foot ceilings clear on the inside from finished floor to finished ceiling.
Thank you. And I have another question, if I could. So the big emphasis has been on housing, and it sounds to me like this is going to be mostly very top-end, expensive housing again. Is that correct?
Who would like to speak to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't say expensive housing. Now, I mean, I guess I can speak for the, or it's going to be market housing. It won't be rentals. It'll be market housing. It could be a higher end demographic, but it's also, I believe, it's also dependent on the market. And so in this environment today, the market isn't as high as it was, 2-3 years ago. And so it will be what we would call market housing and non-rentals. And it won't be for low income or any type of rental assistance.
Okay. Councillor Skipsey.
Okay, I just wanted clarification about the wall, and I think there was talk about, there was 3 different assessments or 3 different approaches, and one of them was tie-back anchors. I'm just wondering, like, is one of those approaches being used, or all 3 approaches? I'm not sure. I just would like a little bit more clarity around that. Thank you.
I'll speak to that. So in our geotechnical report, which I'm not sure if you guys have had the opportunity to read yet, in the back, there's 3 scenarios where we're demonstrating the current condition of the slope with the cut with no reinforcement, and then there's the scenario with the reinforcement. So the proposal would be to install the stress relief wall. That's the only option. So the other 2 scenarios I spoke about are just to demonstrate what the current factors of safety are in a static and seismic condition, if that makes sense.
So there wouldn't be the tie-back anchors that go into the bank? Is that what I'm understanding?
There would be, yeah. Yes, that's the proposal.
I don't think we've seen the geotech report yet, so that will come after, but thank you for explaining
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
Councillor Vanderwalk.
Thank you. In the development permit specifications, development permit area C11, Point number 4, where development involves more than one building or multiple building components, unit designs that appear repetitive or monotonous should be avoided in favor. Do you feel that, in favor of a variety of different unit designs that exhibit harmonious architectural features? Do you feel that you have enough variety in your, this is specific to the units, I believe?
Yes, absolutely. I wish I had our unit count chart here with us, but I believe we have about 14 unit types. And so they vary. Again, we have 4. We have a 2-bed. We have a 2-bed plus den. We have a 3-bed and a 3-bed plus den. So we have 3 room types, but the units themselves also vary. And so I believe we have in the range of 12 to 14 different unit types throughout the buildings. So definitely a good mix of different sizes and areas.
Thank you. Also, in the requirements, point number 2 says the design shall avoid massive building components. And I know that you've tried to break it down, but it's still a pretty massive, long building. Can you see any other way to break that up a bit more?
We would look for those opportunities to break it up even further. However, I think there's good evidence of how the roof line is not continuous and how it has large gaps as well as finer gapping of the roof line itself at the top elevation there. So both of those are operating to break up the overall mass. So there's no vertical overpowering massive element in the composition. Each one of them brings the scale down in its own way. We have the podium, we have the kind of the piano nobile, the 2 floors up above that, which are marked by the white wall at the end, and then the kind of the topping out or crown penthouse kind of idea on top. So we're breaking the mass up horizontally, as I just suggested, and also vertically by turning the geometry of the building, breaking it, and having the roofs not continuous through. But every opportunity that presents itself to make it even more powerful, we will look at that seriously and take it.
Okay.
I did have another question, but it's mostly about your renderings. I'm just curious, because you've got a definite beach area in front, right in front of your buildings. I'm just wondering where that beach is.
So what we did was, when we modeled this, we have the slope stability, which is the topographic that we received from the surveyor. And so we modeled that now in the beach. There's not that much beach there, yes. We just had to depict what we felt would be there at low tide. So like if you see the trees on the left there, I believe those are there based on our maps and our research, and even the grass area, we actually did model it as best we could to what was there. Mind you, keep in mind that our property line that you see on the site plan, that is the extent of the actual topographic information that we received. So there definitely was, you can see some guesswork that was made in front of it, and that's just, even that little the parking stalls across the street there, and you can see some of that landscape on the right side across there. We did as best we could to depict what was truly there. So not that much beach, but it's as close as we could get.
Well, actually, if council would like to come for a swim with me in the summer when I go way out there, that's what it would look like. It's a great place. I live up the hill, and I come down those stairs, and I swim there, and this is what I think is a huge improvement to what the iterations were like before. So I would like to ask council to direct staff to bring this to a council meeting where council can then direct staff to issue the notification, at which point we would set a date, and on that date, the public can also provide input. So that is my recommendation. If council would like to make such a motion, that would be good. Councilor Young? Now, I kind of winged it as a motion, but it's based on what I think staff is recommending, that this would come back to a regular council meeting. We would see the presentation. We would then, if council so chooses, direct staff to do the statutory notification for a following meeting where both the developer and the public can also make comments and questions and presentations. Councilor Skipsey.
Thank you. I agree. I think this is a huge improvement. I also think, though, it would be worth perhaps sending it to our APC just for comments, because I know they did provide quite a bit of input last time around, you know, the corridor, the lighting, the dividing up the walls or whatever, the monotony, or I guess. But I just think that they oftentimes have good input, and so I wouldn't want to skip that stage. But I think it should be proceeding, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. So could I have, you moved a motion to direct staff to bring this to a future council meeting where we can then give direction as far as the statutory notification. And in the meantime, I know what's going to happen. You may want to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and go to the APC, and so that speeds up the process where they can have their input. So when it comes together to a council meeting, we already have the input from the APC based on what we saw today. And so that would be, I would second the recommendation to proceed on that basis. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, and thank you for bringing this proposal to town. To the town of Qualicum Beach. Thank you. And that, I think, is the end of the agenda. So I just need a motion now for adjournment. Councilor Vanderwall, Councilor Skipsey, all in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.